So I ordered a new peripheral for one of my antique computers, and you can probably tell what it's for. I got my Colecovision Adam here, and this is a product by Lundy Electronics. I was looking for something to be able to load programs and games onto my Colecovision, and you can get cartridges that have the SD slot, so you can load up multiple ROMs into a single cartridge and play your Coleco games. You can also get SD cards that plug into the Adam, but this one, it does something a little bit different. So why don't we go ahead and open up and take a look at what I got. All right, so what I've got here is a Coleco Adam internal Fujinet. So Lundy Electronics, what they did is they took the Fujinet, which was typically an external device, and they re-engineered it so that it fits internally into the Adam in one of the cassette bays. So I'm not sure what exactly to expect with this, but I did not order the bracket because I happen to have the old style bay, so that should work just fine. And I didn't get the AdamNet splitter because I don't have a floppy or external peripherals to worry about. So I just wanted just the device. So let's take a look at what I've got here. So box number one. Ooh, okay. So it looks like this is what I was curious about, is does it have the cables to connect internally? And it appears to. I've got, I don't know exactly how this works, but there's a couple of connectors on the inside of the Adam, and we'll look at those here very shortly, that are used to power the cassette drives. And it looks like this device will work off of that, which is really nice. And I've also got this, looks like a phone cable, but this would be the AdamNet cable. And here, let's see, what do we got here? Lots of bubble wrap. Oh, this is getting exciting. So I got some pink stuff here. And this seems to be our Fujinet for the Adam computer. And these Fujinets, I believe they started with the Atari 8-bit computers and just kind of grew out from there. So now you can get Fujinets for, I believe, the Commodore 64, the Adam, the Atari 8-bit line, and also the Apple II has a Fujinet available. So this one, like I said, has been re-engineered so that it fits internally in the Adam, just super nice. We've got our SD card input. You can load up Adam programs or ColecoVision ROMs, which is very nice. You can see along the back, it says that it's the Adam Internal Fujinet by John Lundy. The official product is at fujinet.online. What makes this Fujinet special is it has a ESP32 microcontroller built into it, and that adds wireless capability so that you can do things like go into BBS boards. You can also go to repositories that have ColecoVision or Adam applications, and then you can download those applications and play them. It allows you to save scores on games that support it. Just a crazy amount of stuff. So, you know, keeping in mind that this computer came out in 1983, tail end of 1983, 1984. So to have a device that brings this machine online is just phenomenal. The reason I went with the Fujinet was I wanted that internal capability to be able to mount it internally. And then I also wanted to play the ColecoVision games, but Coleco cartridges with the SD card that allow you to load your ROMs are very expensive. Last time I checked, they're probably around $150, $170 to $200, somewhere around that neighborhood. That's a lot of money, and that doesn't allow you to run Adam programs. And the Fujinet, as far as I understand, can do the cartridge, it can do tape, and it can also emulate a disk drive. So really, really good value here. It also came with the an AdamNet connector, probably so that you can connect this externally. And then I've got some cabling here, which appears to be the internal cabling. So I'm definitely going to have to take a look online and see how I'm supposed to hook this thing up, because I don't want to screw it up. All right, so I've been playing around with the Fujinet for a little bit here, and a couple of things I found is it does come with these two, or actually three cables. You've got this standard Adam net type cable, and then on the back it also has a room for this other wire connector that you see here, and this is set up so that this little guy with the bend would plug into the side here, and then just kind of fold around, and then these that little twist would go down inside the cover here, and then allow you to connect your Fujinet internally and have the wiring just kind of pass through up to the top and then out and around. And that's fine and all, but it's kind of a little bit messy. And part of the reason I went with the Fujinet was because I wanted everything to be internal to the Adam. So this is just such a clean little computer with the internal power supply. I want to keep everything internal. Now, I don't know a ton about the Adam computer, so if you're looking for an expert, you got the wrong guy. But if you're looking for somebody who's kind of learning, this is a good channel to get to know the Adam a little bit, because I'm learning it with you. The taped cassettes, they actually plug in to these connectors over here, and there's 2 of them. So in there, you'll actually find a total of 4 connections. So each tape drive requires 2 connections. The Fujinet does not work with these connections. So these must be specific to cassette drives. And we've got some expansion ports here. I don't know, there's slight differences between them. I'm sure one's probably set up for like a modem possibly, another one's probably set up for RAM. Don't know what all they've done there, because I don't really know how much expansion ever came out for the Adam. Now, inside here, I can't actually see it. I believe that the AdamNet connector on the side here, I might be able to pop that out and then move it on the inside of the machine, and then just use this little connector here to connect on the inside. There's also probably ways you can connect in the motherboard. As a matter of fact, Lundy Electronics sold a product that would allow you to do that. But it's kind of difficult to see exactly how that would work. But I got a couple of issues. So the first is my controller. This button doesn't work well at all. So I think I need to take this guy apart and give it a good cleaning. And the other issue that I was having was my video audio connector cable in the back. Seems to have maybe some either broken solder joints or something's going on back there. So I might have to take this Adam apart, which I really don't want to do, but dive into it and maybe see if I can get to this AdamNet connector over here and maybe pop that off and have it go on the inside, and then I can connect my Fujinet internally. I will have to say that the way this stand worked out is pretty cool. As you can see, it's just this metal bracket. There's a little bit of plastic and some metal there, and it sits really nice. There's the SD card. You can see it just hanging out. It's on Wi-Fi. Super easy getting this thing online. It was like easier than my television. And I can download and play games. So here I'll browse to my SD card and just go enter. And then I can select Colecovision, and these are going to be all the Coleco ROMs. And what I found is you have to rename all of your cartridges. They have to be named .rom, so you can see the file extension name there. This originally was .col, and with that it won't run. I'll just go ahead and tell it to boot BeamWriter, and I put it in slot 1, so you have 4 slots. So kind of interesting how that works, but whoa, hello, that doesn't look right. Oh, so it just crashed big time. Interesting. So I'm gonna have to play around with that. So I think one of the first things I need to do is take this Colecovision controller apart and see if I can get this button working again. And another nice thing would be to give it a good cleaning, because this thing is pretty disgusting. Let me break this down. I'll lay out all the parts. We'll see what it looks like on the inside. So here I've disassembled the controller. So you can see I've got 2 of these buttons. They cleaned up pretty nicely, but I've got a little bit of staining on this one that I just can't get out. So don't know what happened there. And I got the membrane keypad here. That was really easy to clean up. Just give it a wipe. I did pop it off, but it's really tricky getting this back into place. And plus you're risking this plastic cracking and damaging it. So not a good idea, because originally I thought I was going to go ahead and take this out, disassemble it completely, then wash this separately. But it just turned out to be too much trouble, so I just decided to leave it together, because I didn't want to take all of these little tiny leads out. So it looks like the cable carries 7 leads that make connection. That's pretty impressive. This one actually looks like it, oh no, this one looks like it's going to fall off. Don't know what the deal is with this. That shouldn't be like that. I would think that would be attached better, but maybe this one's not needed. I'll try to reconnect this one. I'm not sure what happened there. It's possible that, yeah, it's just not gripping on anything. So I'm not sure why that happened, because these are very firm. But this one's not at all. Huh. Well, I will put this thing back together and test everything out. My suspicion is it just doesn't need that connection at all, and it's just loosely attached. So we can see the top is a very nice design. It's very pretty. It's got a heavy spring here that so it's constantly pushing down, and then that rides on this little cone here, and then when you push up or down or left or right, that's causing the controller to move to the sides, and it makes contact down in this area over here. A little different than what you see on an Atari 2600. Actually quite a bit different. The buttons are these slider type buttons. I've never seen anything like this before. It must have been a pretty expensive component to put into these controllers. I really doubt you can get these anymore. This one on the right wasn't working at all. This one was very flaky. So I sprayed some contact cleaner in there and it seems to be working a little bit better. But I won't really know until I put this together and do some more testing. So that's a good look at the inside of the Colecovision controller. I believe this Adam controller is identical to the Colecovision controller, the only difference being the color. Sometimes I have no idea how they put these things together in a factory, because you know you have to do it quickly, and I do it and it takes me so long to put stuff together. There. There. Oh, snug. Goes together like that. It's not the best controller. It's actually kind of loose feeling, even though I tightened all the screws. Look at this. Oh, maybe. No, it's tight. Huh. Don't want to over tighten because I don't want to strip anything. But yeah, it's tightened down. That's as good as it gets. I felt like that before I took it apart. Hopefully my buttons work a little bit better. So I'd like to take this computer apart so I can get to the AdamNet connectors, but this power supply is beautifully mounted, but it's on top of this area here. And I'm not sure I can actually pull this case apart without removing all of these, which I definitely don't want to do. It'd probably be good to label these guys, or at least take note of the colors. But I'm kind of colorblind, so I don't want to screw these things up when I put them together, because sometimes certain colors look like other colors to me, and I don't want to mess it up. You might not be able to see this very well on the camera, but I've taken my Sharpie and I've labeled all of these inputs, so hopefully it doesn't rub off and I don't have any more trouble. So now I'm going to go ahead and try to disassemble this Adam computer. So I guess there were two different styles of tape drives that were made, one being better than the other. I guess the early units I hear were very troublesome, and then the later units weren't so bad. It's interesting, they have these two plugs that plug into the motherboard over here, and I believe it will only work with tape units and nothing else. Otherwise my Fujinet would have plugged in here. I don't know how you're supposed to tell which one goes into which. Let's see here. So there's no labeling of any kind. I don't know if it matters, but I don't want to mess it up. So I think I'll put a label on it. Oh, here we go. It says 1A, 2A, and then 1B and 2B. So I will just call this one 1A. So let's label that. It's not labeling very nicely. This plastic it doesn't write on. 1A. Yeah. And this one should be 1B. 1B. Good enough. Now I'll know where it plugs in. On the top of the tape unit, it says to turn off your Adam before removing the tape unit. I don't know who would try to remove all this stuff and plug it in while the computer's on, but apparently there's some people out there that have done that. So a pretty nifty little tape drive. Very, very cool. It's got a G on it, an NA, bunch of numbers. Can't tell who manufactured this one. I'd probably have to disassemble it to find out, which I'm not going to do. It's called a digital data drive. Very nice, very pretty. Well, let's flip this guy upside down and see what it looks like on the other side. So I've loosened all these screws, and this is the last one. And look how deep that screw is inside this computer. Holy moly. That's something else. So I'm pretty sure I've got to take off the front as well. I have to say I'm really happy with the condition of this computer. The case is just in beautiful shape. There's a little scratch here, but other than that, it's not bad at all. All right. So here's this little guy. So I've noticed I have an Adam net over on the side over here, and I've always plugged the keyboard over there. But I also have one here. So it might be fairly easy to just maybe pop this out, plug in my Adam net cable, sneak it around this way, and then into my Fujinet. That might work, and then I don't have to worry about disassembling the whole thing, because once I try to pick this guy up, chances are I'm not going to be able to get to much. Yep. Yeah, you can see it's pretty tight over here. Let's take a look. Maybe, can I just like move it up out of the way? It's a little tight. Okay, not bad. So you can see some of the handiwork they've done over here. So this is screwed into place, very nice. It's got some vents here, which is cool. So it's almost like it was made to have a power supply there. The power supply fits in there just absolutely perfectly. We've got some wires coming down through here, a bunch of wires here, and then there's this little breadboard that was added in. That looks great. It's fantastic. Can't really see the traces or anything on how that works, but it's all tied into here. So instead of the motherboard going straight to this little guy, they've added this in here. So now it's providing power. Honestly, I don't know how this compares to original Adam setup. And I don't know what would happen if I tried plugging in a printer. I don't think I'd want to do that, but I'm not sure. Although I have no plans of doing that, that would be kind of interesting. Another thing I'm seeing here is they've got heat sinks on the memory here. So I don't know if that's on the previous Adam that I opened up or not, which is pretty nice. There's our Zilog Z80 processor. This is kind of the Colecovision is right here. And then under this would be the Adam expansion module underneath. Oh, there's another heat sink right there. This is probably the graphics chip underneath here. I'll have to go back and look at my old footage that I did when I tore apart my other Adam and see if it has the heat sinks. I really doubt it. It might have this one, but I don't think those are standard. And here's my Adam net. Now, interestingly, this has been hot glued in place, which kind of stinks. So I've got my Adam net, one of my Adam net connectors here. And what I'd like to do is just kind of like sneak this cable on in through here and then pop this off, pop the connector out of there, plug it in, and then I can close it up. I won't have the front facing Adam net but I don't use it for anything, so that would be okay. Maybe later I'll order a splitter or maybe try to make a splitter using telephone line, but that could be a bit of a pain in the butt. But I'm going to pick at this and see if I can pop this off. Not sure. There, just slides up. Now I'll just go ahead and push it inside. The Adam is a very interesting computer because it's basically a Colecovision board that's been modified. The Colecovision board just plugs in through this expansion in the back. So this board doesn't have like a power input because it gets that from the Adam expansion board at the bottom. But it does have the video and the audio coming out of here. This is my audio cable, which is not working through this AV jack right here. Not sure what's going on, but my video mono output works just fine, and also the RF works fine, and I'm getting sound through the RF. There is no sound through the video output, and there's no dedicated audio jack output, which kind of stinks, but it does have it through this AV port. But again, the AV port, I'm having problems with it because these are all loose. Everything in here is loose, and it looks like it was snipped off at one time for whatever reason. I've sprayed contact cleaner inside the AV jack. That helped a little bit with getting the video through a little bit cleaner, but I'm still not getting sound. Instead of messing around with this, I'm going to pull out my board from my other Adam and swap them out. And I also want to look at the traces and see what kind of differences we have, if any, from here. But before doing that, why don't we just pull this board up and we'll get a nice look at the Adam expansion directly under the Coleco. So you can see we've got our connector that goes into the Colecovision board at the top. And we've got the Adam expansion unit. So we've got some ROMs over here. Not sure what this guy is right here, or this one here. These chips, I've noticed, have some heat sinks. I don't know if that was something that was factory or added later. I guess I'll get a better idea once I pull out my old Adam and see what it's got under there. But the Adam board, of course, it gives you the ability to get some expansion on there. It adds AdamNet, and I'm not sure what else besides some ROM. And I think it's got a little extra memory. Yeah, it's definitely got some extra memory in here. I'm pretty sure this is the memory that it adds in. Why don't we go ahead and pull apart my other Adam and take a look and see what I've got going on with the Colecovision board and see if I have a better connector to work with. So here's inside the Adam computer I've had for a number of years. This is the one that wasn't working for me. Now this guy, you can tell, has never been monkeyed with. So we've got the regular old power coming from the printer into the motherboard. Here's the AV connections over here with this barrel. I guess it's a magnet that's inside there. And we still have the heat shields on this unit. My other Adam does not have heat shields. So that's kind of a nice thing. I'm going to go ahead and take the heat shield off and we'll take a look at how the board looks inside here. So here's the two Coleco boards side by side. There's a couple of subtle differences. Like I noticed, we've got TI chips here on the board from my older Adam computer, whereas there's these are Hitachi chips over here. And something else here, I don't know what brand this is. It looks like it might be ITT, where over here we've got NEC for the RAM chips. Also, we don't have the heat sinks over here, so I think these were added later. Another thing that's different is on my new Adam board, for me, the new Adam, besides this being really loose in here, the sound has been soldered into a different location. So here we have, looks like a little resistor, and that's running over to this capacitor over here. And oops, which is at C88. Now this is supposed to be like an upgrade. It's supposed to give you better sound. Well, right now I'm not getting any sound. It could just be this jack is all mangled up, or maybe it's something else that I'm not aware of. But on this Adam, the sound just runs straight into this glob of hot glue under here. And I think this is the original way they had it set up. What's interesting on this Adam is that there's a ground pin right at the top, and that's not soldered in anything. And there's a ground pin at the very, very bottom, which is soldered in, but that's not used on a 5-pin AV connector. I have 7-pin AV connectors that are used on the Commodore 64 for Chroma Luma separate signals. It works great, but it's not compatible on this Adam. So I'm trying to get this cable to work. So I found my other AV cable that I had. This one doesn't work. It has two AV style jacks that come out of it. So you have one for audio and one for video. And it worked a little bit, but then it stopped working. So what I did is I ran a multimeter in and tested the lines to see if they were conducting electricity, and they're not. So this, for some reason, it's just no longer working anymore. Must have gotten yanked on, stepped on, who knows, I don't know. But neither of these internal pins was carrying current, so it doesn't work. I also have two of these fancy 8-pin cables that are used by the Commodore 64 and the 128 to separate the chroma and luma signals. So you get one audio, a chroma, and a lumen. But that's not compatible with this Adam, at least not without knocking out this center pin, but then you're going to lose either the chroma or luma signal for the Commodore 64. And I'm sure this is a pretty rare cable now, so there's no way I'm going to do that. I did end up finding this cable, which has, I believe, 4 different leads out. It's an ugly thing. You can see the cables are all wired up over there. It works, but it's very cheap. So when I pull this apart, the whole inside of the cable tends to come apart. But once you get it in there, it's working fine. I'm not sure where it picks up the video signal, but we do have the orange cable here that runs into the jack over here, and that is giving my video out. Currently, I'm running video out from this guy, and I also have my RF cable connected. Now, interestingly, when I pull this cable out, my screen starts to go out, and then it's gone. And when I plug it back in, then it's coming back. I suspect that's a grounding issue, but I'm not exactly sure. I was playing around with this ground pin here and was able to get it to work a little bit, but I think it's a grounding issue. So what I'm going to try to do here is move the ground from this bottom pin and move that up to the top pin, which should be a ground connection. So here's a pinout diagram I found online, and you can see that pin 2 at the top is ground, and also pin 4 over here is ground. And then the Coleco is wired up, some pin, maybe 6 or 7 is ground, I don't know. But then you also have pin 3, which is your composite video, and pin 1, which is your audio. So I'm going to move the ground that they have down at the bottom and move it up to 2 and see if that helps me out any. So this one was connected to something at one time, but then was cut off. Oh, there we go, easy. Golly. There we go. All right, so I've got my AV cable all plugged in, and I've got my ground now running to pin 2. I also connected the ground cable to the Adam board as well as the shielding, the casework, as well as the casework, and I also connected it to the Coleco here. So I've got good grounding now, and as you can see on the screen, it looks pretty nice. I'm not getting hardly any noise, but I am getting a bit of ghosting. So I suspect there's something going on around in here, although I do have great sound, so there's no buzzing or anything. So overall, I'm pretty happy with this. Here I've got my RF cable. I'm going to go ahead and plug that into the back of the RF box and take a look and see how that works for me. So here I've got my output from the RF out, and it's a little shaky. Not so great. I was playing with this for quite a while, so I got kind of used to it because I wasn't able to get the AV port to work. But now I have my ground running to pin 2 instead of like pin 7 down at the bottom. I also have my grounding strap connected to the Adam board as well as the casework here and the Colecovision board. And so let's go ahead and switch the TV over to video 2. And here is my AV input coming into the television. The picture looks pretty darn good. The only issue that I've got is there's a bit of ghosting. And I think that has something to do with some of the circuitry I've got down here on my Colecovision board. Not sure what's going on, but this board doesn't work as nice as the other board that I have in my other Adam. Although this board has heat sinks on all these RAM chips, which actually make a bit of a difference because these little RAM chips, they get pretty hot. So having those heat sinks on there is a good safeguard for protecting the RAM. So now when I unplug my RF cable, I don't lose my screen because I have good grounding. So with that, I think I can go ahead and button this computer up and get my Fujinet installed and see how it turns out. So let's take a look at the capability of the Fujinet. First thing I want to do is try to emulate a tape drive. So to do this, I want to load a digital data pack game first, and I'm going to select Donkey Kong Jr. because I also have this game as a disk image, so we can compare the two. So to load that, I'm going to go ahead and select Donkey Kong. I'm going to select a disk slot to put it into, so I'm going to put it in slot 1, which is empty. So now I have my disk slot loaded. I'm going to go ahead and escape out of this menu. And now I can see that I have Donkey Kong loaded in disk slot 1. So now I'm going to go ahead and boot that. So now I've booted into it, and this is a tape image, and that was very, very quick. So I'll select a one-player game. And you will notice that the Adam version of the games have a few extra elements, such as the startup screen here, and it's got some animations, and it also has an extra board too. So some pretty cool stuff, especially back in the day. So now I'll go ahead and try loading the same game, but this time I'll load the disk image instead of the digital data pack image. So I'll reset the Coleco. Now, one of the problems I've run into, and maybe there's a way to get around this. Okay, so when I reset it, it went right back into the game because it's still resident in memory, but I have to actually tell the Fujinet to reset and then reset the Adam. And sometimes it'll boot clean, and sometimes it takes a couple of resets to get it right. And we'll see what it does this time. So it's welcoming a Fujinet, but I did see some graphical gremlins going on, although it seems to be working fine here. So I'll go ahead and go into my disk images or my disk slots, and I'll clear the disk slot. So I'll simply just eject that game. And now I'll go back into my SD card and load the disk image. And the thing about this Colecovision Adam, even though it was out for only a little over a year, there is so much content that was created. It's really amazing. So here's my disk image for Donkey Kong Jr. And we will go ahead and I should be able to load it in slot 1. So currently it's turned off. So one thing I noticed also is when you eject disk slots, then it tends to turn them off, or at least on the first one. So now we'll go ahead and get out of here. We'll exit out. Now I have my disk image, so I will tab over to the disk slots. I'll select the game and boot it. So again, very rapid load. And it is, for all intents and purposes, the same game. All right, so the next thing I want to do is load a ColecoVision ROM. So we've gone from the digital data pack to the external floppy. So what's next, obviously, is a cartridge. So let's give that a go. I'm going to reset my Fujinet and now restart the Adam. So I've got my ColecoVision version of Donkey Kong Jr. and I'm going to go ahead and boot this game. So notice the splash screen is a little bit different. It no longer says Adam, it's just ColecoVision. And there's a timer on here. The game's actually loaded in ROM, but you gotta wait for the timer. The menu selection's a little bit different. And all the extra animations are no longer present because this is the ColecoVision version, not the Adam version or the enhanced version that you find on Adam. But still, basically the same game, same graphics, same sound, everything like that. It's identical. Just some added little features that get put into the Adam version. So that's a look at the ColecoVision Adam with the Fujinet running digital data packs, the external floppy drive emulation, the cartridge port emulation. Now, the only thing left really is to take a look at the Fujinet doing something online. So to do that, I'm going to go ahead and bring up the Wikipedia app. Now, what's interesting is Wikipedia is a digital data pack. So never thought of Wikipedia running on a digital data pack. We're going to go ahead and put Wikipedia in slot 1. And we'll select the digital data pack for Wikipedia and go ahead and boot that. So here's Wikipedia, and it's asking for a search term, and I think a very appropriate search term would be Coleco Adam. So it looks like the Coleco Adam is article number 287134, so I should be able to just type that in. And here is page 1 of 40 on the article covering the ColecoVision Adam. So very, very cool stuff here. I can enter the page numbers. So let's go to page 10. Now I'm in page 10 of 40. Or I can just do the next page by hitting return. So that should go to page 11. And the other thing I can do here is look up another article. So maybe I want to look at the ColecoVision. So that would be 7306. So we got 25 pages of ColecoVision. So I hope you enjoyed this quick look at the ColecoVision Adam my nifty little Fujinet upgrade, as well as the video output repair that I did, I have to say that I really, really like this computer. There is so much to explore with this machine. And to say that this machine is a failure is really kind of exaggerating things. I think it's really somebody who says it's a failure doesn't know anything about the machine. When you consider that it was only in the market for a short period of time, the number of applications, the number of games that were developed for it, not to mention the built-in Colecovision, there's just so much to explore on this machine. And as much as I would hate to admit it, this Coleco Adam is quickly growing into one of my favorite 80s computers. The capabilities it brings, the really nice keyboard that it offers, the beautiful design in the CPU, it's really amazing, especially when you upgrade the machines so that you have power built into the CPU, and something like the Fujinet, it's really great. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I will be publishing more content on the ColecoVision Adam, as well as many other machines in my collection. So until then, take care of yourself and goodbye.